Imagine you're a space marine, one of humanity's finest warriors, genetically enhanced, clad in power armor, carrying weapons that could level a building. You fire everything you've got into a squad of enemies. They drop, you exhale, and then, one by one, they stand right back up. That's what it feels like to fight the Necrons. And across the entire galaxy of Warhammer 40k, from the mightiest Space Marine chapter to the most terrifying Tyranid hive fleet, the Necrons are the one enemy that makes even the boldest commanders hesitate before giving the order to engage. Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, glad you found us. We cover Warhammer 40k lore, and today we're looking at what I personally think is the most underrated nightmare faction in the entire setting, the Necrons. Not the flashiest faction, no demonic screaming, no psychic superpowers, no bug swarms, just cold, patient, ancient metal. And that's exactly what makes them so terrifying. Let's get into it. All right, so first, a little backstory, because context matters a lot here. About 60 million years ago, there was a race called the Necron. These were people, flesh and blood, just like us. They lived on worlds scorched by radiation from their dying stars. Because of that, they suffered. Their lives were short. Their bodies broke down constantly. They were essentially born dying. They were smart, though. Incredibly smart. Advanced enough to build a galactic empire. But no matter how far their technology went, they couldn't solve the one problem that haunted every single one of them: mortality. Then they encountered the C'tan, ancient beings that had existed since the birth of the universe itself. The C'tan were star gods, literally. They fed on the electromagnetic energy of suns. And when the Necron found them, the C'tan offered a deal. We can make you immortal. Now, you can probably already guess that this deal went bad, but it went really bad. The process was called biotransference. Every Necron, every man, woman, and child was transferred. Their consciousness, their memories, their personalities, pulled out of organic flesh and locked inside bodies made of living metal, called necrodermis. They got their immortality, but they lost their souls, literally. The C'tan feasted on the life energy released during the process. The Silent King, the ruler of the Necron, watched what happened. And as the lore tells it, in that moment, he knew with cold certainty that the price of physical immortality had been the loss of his soul. So you have this entire civilization of beings who are now eternal, but hollow, stripped of the warmth that made them who they were. Most of them drifted into a kind of mental decay. And after 60 million years of lying dormant in their tomb worlds, they're waking up. That alone is a problem, but it gets so much worse when you understand what they're actually made of and what they can actually do. Let's talk about what you're up against if you actually try to fight a Necron army. The standard weapon carried by a basic Necron warrior, the most common, most ordinary soldier in their entire military, is called a Gauss flare. Now, in 40k, there are a lot of scary guns. Bolters fire explosive rounds that detonate inside your body. Plasma weapons fire superheated matter. But Gauss weapons, they do something uniquely horrifying. They strip matter apart at the atomic level, literally atom by atom. You don't get shot, you get disassembled, flesh, bones, ceramite, power armor, tank plating. It doesn't matter. The beam doesn't care what it hits, it just takes things apart. The Imperium of Man has spent a long time trying to capture and study Gauss weapons to figure out how they work. The problem? By all known physical principles, these weapons shouldn't even function. They should overheat and destroy themselves the moment you fire them. But the Necrons have solved that problem with technology so advanced that the tech priests of Mars, the smartest engineers in the human galaxy, genuinely cannot explain it. And remember, that's the basic weapon. Every common Necron foot soldier carries one. Scale up from there, and you get Tesla weapons that fire arcing lightning, jumping from target to target and growing stronger with every arc. You get doomsday cannons that have been documented vaporizing entire armies in a single shot. And if you're really unlucky, you might face a Gauss pylon, a fixed emplacement that can shred spacecraft in orbit. During the Orphean War, one of the most well-documented Necron conflicts in Imperial records, the Death Corps of Krieg launched a massive artillery bombardment against a Necron position. The kind of barrage that would wipe out a lesser army entirely. The Necrons walked through it. They lost warriors, yes, but they just kept advancing, because here's the thing. Even if you manage to shoot them down, you're only halfway done. This is where things get genuinely unsettling. Every Necron body is built from necrodermis, living metal, and every Necron has something called Reanimation Protocols built directly into its body. It's basically an automatic self-repair system, and it is relentless. You shoot a Necron down, it falls, you move on, you come back 5 minutes later, and it's already partially reassembled, rising back to its feet, damage repaired, ready to fight again. Sometimes soldiers report watching Necrons put themselves back together in the middle of a battle, limbs reconnecting, chest cavities sealing up, torsos rejoining severed legs. If the damage is too severe to repair on the spot, they just phase out. They teleport back to the nearest tomb world or Necron ship, where they're fully repaired and return to battle later. This has caused an absolute psychological nightmare for Imperial commanders, because it means you can never be certain you've won. You clear a field of Necrons, you count the bodies. An hour later, half of them are gone. 2 hours later, you're under attack again from the same warriors you just killed. The only way to truly destroy a Necron, to give it what the lore calls a true death, is to overwhelm its repair systems faster than they can function. Hit it so hard, so fast, with so much concentrated fire that its body simply cannot keep up. That requires a massive investment of ammunition, time, and coordination. And even then, some of them will get away. The Fall of Damnos is one of the most well-known examples of this. The Ultramarines, among the most celebrated Space Marine chapters in existence, fought the Necrons of Damnos and were pushed to the absolute limit. Cato Sicarius, one of the greatest warriors of the chapter, fought his way to the Necron leader, a towering overlord called the Undying, and lost the fight. The Ultramarines eventually had to evacuate an entire world against Necrons. Let that sink in. Here's something people don't talk about enough when it comes to why Necrons are so difficult to deal with long term. They don't need anyone to keep them running. Necron tomb worlds are maintained by autonomous robotic constructs called canoptech units. The most common are scarabs, small beetle-like machines that swarm through the tombs, constantly repairing damage, disassembling unnecessary materials, and preparing the tomb world for reactivation. But scarabs aren't just maintenance drones. In combat, a swarm of canoptech scarabs can strip a tank down to scrap metal in minutes. They eat fortifications, they eat vehicles. They've been documented disintegrating entire city blocks when deployed in sufficient numbers. Supporting them are canoptech spiders, larger constructs that maintain communication networks, act as mobile factories producing more scarabs on the fly, and bring serious firepower to battle. What this means in practice: a Necron army is entirely self-sustaining. They don't need supply lines. They don't need food. They don't need rest. They don't need to sleep, heal, or mourn their dead. They just keep going, indefinitely. Your army gets tired. Your soldiers get hungry, scared, and exhausted. The Necrons just continue the advance at the same pace, hour after hour, day after day. Let's take a step back from stats and weapons for a second and just talk about what it feels like to fight Necrons. Because this is something the lore and novels make very clear, and it's genuinely one of the most compelling parts of the Necron threat. You can reason with an orc. Not well, but you can. Tyranids follow the logic of the Hive. Chaos Marines want things: power, glory, corruption. Even daemons have goals you can understand, however twisted. Necrons. Most of them want nothing from you. They don't hate you. They don't even notice you as a person. You are just an obstacle, an inconvenience on a world that they have decided belongs to them, and they will remove you with the same cold efficiency that a janitor sweeps a floor. There's no negotiating. There's no psychological warfare you can run on them. Sleep deprivation doesn't work on beings that don't sleep. Fear doesn't reach beings that don't have the neurochemistry to feel it. Destroying their command structure barely helps, because the army just keeps following its original programming. Imperial commanders who have faced Necron forces often describe the experience the same way. You never feel like you're fighting an army. You feel like you're fighting a machine that has decided you should not exist here anymore. And it is going to keep processing until the problem is resolved. That alone breaks morale faster than almost any weapon. Here's one more layer to the horror. Nobody knows how many tomb worlds there are. The Necrons went into stasis 60 million years ago, seeding tomb worlds across every corner of the galaxy. Over millions of years, planets changed. Other civilizations rose, built cities, lived whole histories, and died, all on top of sleeping Necron tombs. There are tomb worlds under human-settled planets right now, and the colonists have no idea. There have been multiple recorded incidents where routine excavations, mining operations, construction projects, earthquake damage accidentally cracked open a tomb world that had been sealed for 60 million years. And on at least one occasion, a Necron tomb ship drifted silently through the entire Imperial Navy blockade around Mars and reached the surface of the Red Planet itself, completely undetected, the most heavily defended place in the human galaxy, the seat of the Mechanicus. And Necrons just walked in. This is a consistent feature of Necron warfare. They materialize seemingly out of nowhere. They attack from below, from within, through dimensional gates. You can't effectively blockade a planet against an enemy that might already be under that planet. Here's the thing that should keep you up at night if you live in the 41st millennium. What we're seeing right now? The Necron activity across the galaxy in the current lore? This is the early phase of the Awakening. Most of the tomb worlds are still dormant. Most of the legions haven't even come online yet. The Silent King, the ancient ruler of the Necrons, has returned to the galaxy after an exile in the intergalactic void. His return has already begun consolidating the various Necron dynasties, many of which have been feuding among themselves. And as they unify, the scale of what they could field if fully awakened and organized is something that no faction in the galaxy has a clear answer for. The Eldar, a race with thousands of years of foresight, are terrified of the Necrons and have been since before humanity had writing. The Tyranids, for all their countless billions, have reportedly steered their hive fleets around certain Necron-heavy regions. Even Chaos, which has corrupted everything from humans to gods, has essentially no influence over beings with no souls and no psychic presence. Everybody in the galaxy has run the math on fighting the Necrons, and the answer keeps coming back the same. Nobody wants to fight the Necrons. So, there you have it. Weapons that strip matter apart at the atomic level, bodies made of living metal that reassemble themselves, an army that doesn't eat, sleep, fear, or mourn, hidden tomb worlds under planets nobody suspected, and a civilization that, at its full strength, ruled this entire galaxy 60 million years before humanity could even light a fire. The Necrons aren't the most chaotic threat in 40K. They're not the most numerous, but they might be the most inevitable, patient, ancient, and absolutely certain that everything that has happened in their absence is a temporary inconvenience. If you want to read more about this, I genuinely recommend the novel Fall of Damnos by Nick Kime. It's one of the best on-the-ground portrayals of what it actually feels like to fight them. And the Orphean War campaign book has some incredible documentation of a full-scale Necron dynasty engagement. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this, hit that subscribe button. We put out Warhammer 40K lore breakdowns regularly, and there's a lot more where this came from. Drop a comment below. I want to know, which faction do you think would have the hardest time against the Necrons